Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. And sometimes I do a tag video, and that's exactly what I want to do today. I was tagged by Lucas in the what tag, and as he has become a member of the secret cabal of YouTubers who do tag videos, and I just want to congratulate him on becoming a part of this secret cabal of tag YouTubers, because that's a pretty big deal. It's not every day you become part of a secret cabal of anything, so I'm going to stop saying the word cabal. It just sounds weird and it has terrifying implications and it's weird. So anyways, I thought I would do this tag. I don't normally do tag videos. I find it very difficult to do tag videos simply because it seems like every tag has similar questions. Some of them are different enough. Some of them are hyper-focused, but a lot of the tags have similar questions. And sure, like, you're drawing more eyes to your videos by doing tags. But also, there's only so many times you can answer the question, what is your favorite book, with the answer to that, and before it just becomes repetitive. But those are my thoughts. If you like doing tag videos out there, hey, that's absolutely fine. But I thought I'd do this tag video because I haven't done one in a while. Might do a few more as the week progresses. So without further ado, let's get to the tag. I will answer the questions. The first question is, what is the oldest book that I own? The answer to that is The Divine Comedy by Dante. I think I've talked about it before on this channel. Lucas over at the Bits of Lit actually gave me the book and was like, you should read this. And I avoided reading it for so long, and then I tried to read it, and I couldn't get through it because The Divine Comedy, as important and as interesting as it may be, reads like a tour guide, a tour guide of hell. Here is where one of my enemies are. Here is where another one of my enemies are. Here is the fifth layer of hell. And I get that he's doing biting commentary of religion and the Pope at the time, but I still couldn't get into it. It just felt too much like a travel log, and that doesn't have to be bad. It just, it wasn't for me. The second question is, what is the most sentimentally valuable book that I own? I think there's multiple answers to this question. One of them is The Door in the Dragon's Throat. Lucas actually gave me that when I was moving to Washington, and I read it on the bus ride to Washington. It's a really ridiculous book that's hyper-religious and concerns people excavating a mysterious ruin that is actually holding Satan. I thought it was a funny book, but only because Lucas in the margins had written goofy notes and was making fun of the book, and so I'm sentimental about the book because I think it highlights Lucas and I's friend, our friendship. And every time I see the book, I think of our friendship. So that's one of the answers. Another one is Before I Fall. A really good book written by Lauren Oliver. I recommend that you check it out. But I discovered it in college when I was beginning to figure out who I was as a person, and I feel that connection to the book every time I read it, and also the entertainment value because it is so good. So that's the connection there. Maybe a bit of nostalgia. And then the last answer is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I read that in college when I was trying to figure out who I am, but also there's a connection to psychology and counseling and mental health, all things that I'm pretty interested in. And so that whenever I read the book, I'm reminded of, this is the kind of person that I want to be. This is the philosophy that I want to go for life, to find that meaning. Because anybody who anyone who has a meaning can find a reason to go on, to keep going forward, even when you're dealing with traumatic life events. What was the last book you gave to someone as a gift? I was part of a Secret Santa exchange last December, and my Secret Santee was interested in drinking and whiskey and those types of things. They were an alcohol connoisseur, and so I ended up giving them a very large book on whiskey, just facts about whiskey, how different types of drinks you can make, and, just a compendium of that sort of thing. And they said they enjoyed it. The next question is, what 3 literary characters would you most like to have dinner with, and why? I think one of my answers there is Phileas Fogg from Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days. I feel like that we would have an intelligent conversation about the nature of the world, and he would have a lot to say since he traveled around it in 80 days. And maybe he could teach me a thing or two about the world. Again, Around the World in 80 Days, one of my favorite books. Another answer is Don Quixote, the Man of La Mancha. I think it'd be funny at that dinner. He probably has a lot of things to say about knighthood. Maybe some of them are wrong, but I would certainly be entertained throughout the entire dinner. And perhaps Sancho Panza would show up and be like, "Hey, you probably shouldn't be talking about knighthood," or something like that, because you're not a knight. And Don Quixote would say, "Be quiet, I'm enjoying my steak," and also thinking of ways to slay dragons or something like that. And then another answer is William Stoner from the book Stoner, written by John Williams. I think that's a weird answer, though, because he's not a very interesting character. He's very mundane. But I think, again, John Williams wrote about the beauty and the mundanity. I'm sure he'd have a lot to say, given that we're both people in the academic sector who focus on higher education. I'm sure he would have a lot to talk about there. We could talk about books and whatnot. So. Probably a more unconventional choice, but it would be fun. And then the next question is, what book would you most like to live in for a year? I think a good answer to that is Space Opera, because it is a book about space travel and meeting aliens and whatnot, by Catherine M. Valente. It'd be fun to live amongst the various new space beings that we found out about in the world, and try to see all the different things that you can see in space. That would be pretty cool. Although maybe some of the space aliens might try to murder you for one reason or another. Who is to say? And then another place that I would like to live in for a year is probably the Wizard of Earthsea's world, just because, it has magic and dragons and wyverns and all kinds of fun mystical creatures. There is the threat of accidentally unleashing a shadow creature that wishes to kill me and take away my power, but I'll have to learn to deal with that. I think Ursula Le Guin created a beautiful universe in the Wizard of Earthsea, and I would definitely like to trounce around there for a little bit. The next question is, what deceased author would you like to have resurrected, and why? So I think I have a couple answers to that. Again, two main answers. Probably Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, mainly so that he could tell everybody who is writing substandard, subpar adaptations of Sherlock Holmes movies to stop it. There's a lot of bad Sherlock Holmes movies out there, bad Sherlock Holmes TV shows, and I'm sure Arthur Conan Doyle would be very angry that people are making Sherlock Holmes out to be a mockery at times. Everyone has their own version of Sherlock Holmes. Ooh, my version is one where Sherlock Holmes is actually stupid. And it's like, congratulations, you undermined the very nature of Sherlock Holmes by making him stupid. Doyle is rolling in his grave because of you. So, the frustration there. I would also say Michael Crichton. I think he'd have a lot of things to say about this current moment in time, specifically with the power of corporations, about cloning, about the need to move to away from fossil fuels. He was a climate change denialist, but I think he probably would have changed his mind in time, hopefully. And so I'd love to see what he has to say about this current moment in time. Because his books, they were really good. Sometimes the endings weren't that great, and sometimes he had a tendency to drone on about the science aspect of it. But I was still entertained by Michael Crichton's work, and if he were to create like a Jurassic Park sequel, like The Lost World, that is even better than the Jurassic World movies, that would be pretty nice too. The next question is, what book turned out to be the biggest surprise for me? I would say, I have to say more recently, it's probably Watchmen by Alan Moore. I thought it was a good book, but I had avoided it for so long because I didn't think it could possibly live up to the hype. And also, my first experience of Watchmen came from the movie, which I thought was good, but it didn't really merit, going out and seeking the comic book. So I was fully prepared to hate Watchmen, but it actually surprised me because Alan Moore has a lot to say about Kantian philosophy, about utilitarianism, about the nature of superheroes. He has a lot to say there, and I'm glad to have read it. And I got to learn to stop counting Alan Moore out, because I also thought the Killing Joke wasn't going to be very good, but it actually surprised me too, with its art and with its the nature of the relationship between Batman and Joker. And then another example of a book that surprised me, perhaps on the opposite end, was Dracula. I had heard so many good things about Dracula, and our society is obsessed with vampires, and I thought Dracula was going to be a very good book, but I was actually surprised to find that it was kind of boring. Dracula himself doesn't show up very often, and the characters just seem to be meandering about until Dracula shows up, and then the ending is kind of bizarre with gypsies showing up to transport Dracula's body, and none of it really makes any sense to me. And I thought it was going to be a lot more interesting than it was. But I guess that goes to show you, just because you're one of the biggest names in the field of horror, that doesn't mean that your book is going to be as good as everyone says it is. So that was unfortunate, but there's a lot of better vampire literature out there. What book that has already been published do you wish you had written? That is the next question. I think Space Opera is one. It definitely has a Douglas Adams vibe to it. It was written by Catherine M. Valente, a wonderful author. I kind of wish I had written it because I have a couple ideas in my head for stories that I would love to write that are similar in nature, and with every passing day, it becomes harder and harder because people are getting at those ideas. So maybe I should get out there and finally write the book that I want to do. But Space Opera is a very good example of that question. And then the last question is, what book has had the most influence or impact on your life so far? And as I mentioned before, I have a really sentimental connection to Man's Search for Meaning, and I think that's the answer there. Viktor Frankl wrote about meaning and understanding how if you have that meaning, you can survive the various traumas that life throws at you. And he also talked about trying to help others find those meanings. You can't give them the answer, but you can certainly help guide them in that direction. So yeah, the book has been very influential to me in terms of helping others, but also helping myself, and whenever there's a conflict with trying to find that meaning, reframing my life so that I can possibly find a new meaning or come to understand the current meaning that I hold better. I'm sure that Albert Camus would laugh at me because he was all like, there's no meaning to anything, and it's absurd and stuff like that. But I really love this book, and it's something that I kind of guide my life around, and I think about it frequently, and I return to the book frequently. So I think that's my answer there. Anyway, those are my answers to the what tag. I was tagged by Lucas at the Bits of Lit. And if I'll tag everyone, but especially Noah from Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse. I hope that this finds his way to him. And also Miranda from Miranda Reads. I hope that she also checks out this book tag and does one of her own, because that is pretty groovy. I'll tag them both in the description so that you can find their channels if you do not already know who they are. Otherwise, if you have something to say about the video that I made, comment below. I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that other people can find out about my channel, And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and whatty travels. Farewell.